really just real simple here for those of you that don't know me well. My name is Russ Lagan, real estate guy. I consider myself more of a business person doing real estate than a real estate person doing business. My last job was running half the country for a national real estate company, of which Sandy's on the call. She worked for me in the California market for a little while. I actually hired her. Yeehaw! So there's a couple of you guys that know me well, and for those of you that don't, my typical gig will be running, managing multiple real estate offices, 20, 25, 28 real estate offices, 900 realtors. That's the kind of stuff I've done. So my background and my history gives me a little more perspective than your typical real estate agent. And the reason why is when you see how business is done in the DC market, done in the Carolinas, which is different, done in Georgia, which is different, and Florida is different, and Texas is different. There's so many different markets that come into the play, and every market's a little bit different. So Heidi, can you mute your microphone there? Welcome. So with that being said, you're going to find that not everything I'm going to say today pertains exactly to your market, but there's a lot of overall generalities that are common between markets. And there's a lot of this history lesson that I'm going to give you real quick that I learned firsthand in Michigan, and I learned firsthand in the markets in Detroit. So when you start really getting into the details of this stuff, you're going to find that there's a lot of similarities within these markets, and then there's a little bit of subtle differences, but the overall concepts will apply. And I think what you're going to find is because we have a little bit of history and we've seen this before, and some of you have more experience than I do time-wise in the business, you're going to find that we learned some really valuable lessons the last time the real estate market got hit. So let's be really clear. Right now, today, if you ask real estate agents, and I'm seeing it on a bunch of forums online, if you ask real estate agents, how's the market? How are things going? The market really hasn't seen a hit in a lot of the states that I've seen and the people that I know, and I know people all over the nation, and I'm starting to see, I've seen people saying, I got 3 properties under contract last week, I got 4 listings, there's still things going because we still haven't gone into lockdown mode. Now, I will tell you, Sandy, you can probably confirm this because you've been around a couple of years in the business. California is basically on lockdown for anything non-essential. Do you believe that will affect the real estate business for the next 2 or 3 weeks? Do you think that'll affect the business for the next 2 or 3 weeks?
Yeah, it will, yes.
Absolutely. So in reality, when push comes to shove, do you think that's going to have a longer term effect in the real estate market overall? Will that do a push in the real estate market for a while after that?
I think after that, maybe.
Absolutely, right? So there are going to be things going on and people are saying, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? What's going to happen? And listen, guys, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't have a crystal ball, but I can tell you based on statistics and I can tell you based on human behavior, which we as real estate agents are a study of watching all the time, that there are certain things that are in common and there's other things that have happened like this in the past, and it typically will trend doing the same thing. So let's go through a history lesson of where it was before, where the real estate market was before last time we saw a big hit in the real estate market. And let me walk you through why this time this issue is completely different than what happened that shut down the real estate market last time. And I want you to be able to compare last real estate market downturn / crush and then what's here today and why there's a bunch of reasons that this one shouldn't be like that one. Now, I'm not saying I know what's going to happen in the future, but what I'm going to say is I know these 2 situations, 2006, 7, 8, 9 versus this are completely different. And it's important you know the history so you know why this is different, because people start getting emotional. When they get emotional, they unplug their brain and they follow their heart. Do they say stupid things? Yes. Do they believe stupid things? Yes. When you're emotional, not looking at facts and not looking at history and not looking at context, you're emotional and worried about yourself and worried about your family and worried about the grandkids and worried about the dog getting coronavirus, you're going to find that people make decisions differently and they think differently and they say things differently. So let's talk about some factual information first. And then once we get past the quick history lesson, I'm going to get into a couple of mindset things that are going to be really key for you guys to be able to, number one, succeed yourself and be successful as a real estate agent yourself, mindset-wise. And then secondly, taking that same mindset and using that same mindset and starting to infect the people around you with a good mindset. If you want to infect the people around you, do it with a good mindset, right? Because the way we think and the way we react to things completely changes the way our body reacts and the way we do things. So if we've got the right mindset going in, we've got a lot better chance of coming back out in a better piece. And I will tell you what, one thing we learned in 2006, 7, 8 was the people that went in with a mindset of I don't care what happens. I'm going to be successful. Those are the people that came out in 2010, 11, 12, 13, and they had taken over market share. They had positioned themselves so when the market started moving again, that they were in a position to be able to actually really capitalize on that. I saw people that went from making darn near nothing in 2006, 7, 8 to being top producing 40, 50, 70 million dollar producers over the next 3, 4, 5, 6 years when the market starts swinging back. It's the things we do now and the things we do today that are going to set ourselves up to be able to accelerate back out of this ditch that we're going to be in. Can we avoid being in this ditch? No. Can we avoid the slowdown? No. Can we set ourselves up to be the first ones that come back when the slowdown picks back up? Absolutely. Can we set ourselves up where we're positioned to be able to make up for and also exceed and excel what we would have done during the slowdown? I believe you absolutely can. So there's a couple of things I'm going to show you towards the end. I've got a couple of really just flip the light bulb on aha moments and a couple of tips for you guys that are going to help you say, okay, now I've got a target list. This is really interesting. I didn't think of that. Let me start working on these things. And then it doesn't matter if this goes 2, 3, 4, 5 months. The more time this goes, the more time you have to build this part of the business and the stronger a platform it puts you on. Basically, all you're going to be doing is building a stronger and stronger and stronger foundation while you have the time. We all know as real estate agents, I know as a real estate coach that when I talk to real estate agents, we tell them to do stuff. And I know you guys are just like me. We tell you to do stuff. You're like, I just don't have the time to do the little stuff. And now here's a great part. We have the time. So now's the time to get it done. If you don't get it done now, you know what? You're going to pay the price and it's going to hurt. And it's going to hurt a lot longer and it's going to hurt a lot worse. So let's mitigate the damage to ourselves as we go. So you guys ready for a history lesson? I know Dorothy is. She loves history lessons, right? She's like, my favorite subject in school was history. Said no one ever, right? So here's a history lesson on where the real estate market was. For those of you who have only been in the business less than 10 years, you will have heard rumors of this, but let's talk about what really happened and what the facts are and what the actual timeline looks like. You will have heard people talk and coaches talk and top industry professionals talk, and probably even your family or parents will say, real estate markets and financial markets are cyclical, which basically means it goes around in a circle. You have your ups and your downs, and then there's transitions between ups and downs. There's transitions between down and up. And what you like to think is, this circle is going to be a perfect circle. And, hey, we've been going for a quarter of the time in a downturn, which means we should start slowing down. And then there's no such thing as a perfect circle up and down. And we've noticed that in the last couple of years with the way the real estate market has prolonged in many markets, really low sustained supply of real estate homes available, and then consistent demand, which is basically set yourself up like in the two major markets that I play in. Tampa has been routinely sub three month market supply particularly in the sub $300,000 range. And then the Detroit market is basically the same thing. In the neighborhood that I bought in 2017, that neighborhood was at a 1.6 month supply of homes for almost 8 months, which means there's way too low supply and too high of demand. So what happens is prices continue to drive up. The good news is, for a lot of these markets, is the market prices haven't driven up completely out of range and out of hand. They've actually steadily gone up, but they haven't been astronomical jumps, which has been able to allow this to sustain. So I'm going to kind of talk you through some real numbers too here so you can understand what's potentially going to happen in the next 2-3 months. So let's look at this circle here. So when you look at the actual real estate market, I don't know if you guys can see this real well on your screens, depending on the size screen you've got. 2005 was considered the peak of the market in a lot of areas. Now, in Detroit market, 2002 is when the auto industry started having issues. They were having trouble being sustainable, and they started laying off people. So Ford Motor Company, GM, Chrysler, between the three of them, they laid off about 110,000 mid-level managers. Now, you might say, well, that's not that many in a city of 5 million. But when you look at 110,000 people that are making around $80,000 to $120,000 a year, you don't just go to McDonald's and patch that together. So you put all of those out in the market in the span of 2 or 3 months, and what happens is that actually drove a real estate market crash in Detroit prior to 2005, which is where we started seeing economic shift, and the economic shift drove a real estate collapse. So 2005, 6, 7, the market was absolutely getting crushed and slowing down at a ridiculous rate of speed. At the end of 2005, people were going, this is the greatest market ever. This is the most amazing thing. This has been going on for, and people were taking their money and they were leveraging their equity and they were taking out loans and they were borrowing on houses that they couldn't afford. They had stated income, stated asset loans, which basically, for those of you guys that don't know what that is and haven't seen that, basically you could talk to your mortgage person and say, hey, I want to buy this house. And they'd say, well, how much money do you make? And they say, well, we make $70,000 a year in our family. He goes, well, if you told me you made 110, you'd actually be able to afford this house. And they're like, oh yeah. Well, I'll get a raise or so. So yeah, I'll probably make it 110. I said, well, how much assets do you have? And they'd say, well, I have like $20,000 in the bank. He goes, so, if you sent 35 or 40, we could probably make this deal happen. They're like, oh yeah. I got this other bank account I forgot about. So yeah, it's 40. So the mortgage people, some of them unscrupulously, were guiding people into telling the story the way they need to tell the story. And here's a jacked up part of it that makes no sense to people that are in the business now is the mortgage companies wouldn't verify the income. They wouldn't verify the assets. They go stated income, stated assets. Whatever you told us, we're going with. We don't have to verify it. If your credit score was a certain height and you had a certain stated income and a certain stated assets, they give you a loan. A ton of greed going on, a ton of wild, crazy stuff going on, not a lot of regulation, not a lot of people pulling back on it. And what they started finding is when the economy tightened up, then the mortgage banks basically said, we've got all these loans and these are A-paper loans because these people have plenty of assets and they have plenty of income and they have good scores. And then when it really push comes to shove, they started finding out these people really couldn't afford these houses when things tightened up. So what happens when somebody says, hey, I bought a second house in Florida cash. I can't afford that house anymore. What happens? Basically, the short story is they live in their house in New York, New Jersey, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and they let the one in Florida go. So what happens is the whole overall market starts getting hit, and some of these investment markets where people are buying a ton of second houses just get completely decimated. People are hanging out way further than they were before. Then they start getting laid off. They can't afford to keep what they've got, and that's what drove foreclosures through the roof. So people are walking away from houses because it was the best financial decision for them at the time. They put $50,000 on a house to be built 2 years later, and when you're looking at a house you paid $300,000 for in 05, by 07, that same house was worth $200,000. You put $50,000 down. If you close on that house, you just lost $100,000. So it's better to walk away from 50 than take a bite for 100. So what happens in 2008 is that accelerates, and it was total free fall. So I was in the Tampa market at that point. We went to a 25-month supply of homes across the whole market. And in the month of January, where we normally have 3,000 to 4,000 sales per month, there was 800 sales with 13,000 real estate agents. 800 sales with 13,000 real estate agents. So that means less than 1 in 13 people made $1. And what you're going to find is that some of the real estate agents that were active and pursuing their business and staying connected and building those connections, some of those got 2 and 3 and 4 times the deals, and then a bunch of other people didn't make money. So I would say realistically, probably 12,500, 12,600 of those 13,000 agents didn't make any money in January or February. So this is where the market was getting completely destroyed. 2008 was free fall mode, straight down. Market was getting crushed. And that's when they really implemented regulations that say, if you can't afford a house, you can't document it, you can't verify it, you can't prove it, you don't get it. Let me give you a perfect example. I have good income. My last mortgage, when I was doing the mortgage in 2017, I had excellent income. I had excellent assets. I had an 805 credit score. And I felt like I got treated like a criminal trying to get a mortgage. I literally could have bought the house cash, wrote a check for it, and just bought the house cash, but I didn't want to use my cash because I could borrow money at 3.75%. So why would I use my money? I can make more money with my money than 3.75% doing various things. So I borrowed the money. Man, they put me through the freaking ringer. I got to like a week before closing, and I said to them, if you guys don't get your crap together and get this done and make this move, I'm just going to drop everything. I'm just going to buy the house cash. I'm done with you guys. This is ridiculous. You asked me for one more document, I'm canceling everything. I was pissed. That's the way the mortgage business went. They went from you could do whatever you want to clamp down, put everybody in a headlock. And I'm not saying that's a good thing, but what I am saying is when you come back around to where we are today, that exact process makes it so that you don't have a bunch of people that are over leveraged. You don't have people jacking all the equity out of their house and leveraging that and spending it on things and buying other assets they can't afford. And you don't have them buying cars that they can't afford, buying $100,000 cars they can't afford with equity out of their house. I know my neighbor 2 doors down bought a brand new Jaguar went on 5 vacations one year, and then they had to default on their house and foreclose on their house. And they were bitching that the bank screwed them. I was like, well, you bought an $80,000 Jaguar. You took 5 vacations in the last year. You plowed through $80,000 in equity over the span of a year, and you're pissed at the bank for wanting their money back? But that's the way the mindset was, right? So when you look at what was going on in 2005, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and then, of course, in 10, 11, 12, things just kind of went flat. They weren't increasing, but everybody's kind of standing on the sidelines. And this is when hedge funds and investors are like, market's crushed. This is when we need to start picking up houses. They started picking up houses. Supply went down, went down, went down, went down. And then what happens? 14, supply is going down. 15, supply has gone down because investors have been buying properties. All the people that had money sitting on the side were buying properties up. Inventory levels went down. And then what has happened? Buyers started coming back into the market. They started picking up the rest of the inventory. And there's a ton of businesses, ton of towns and cities that were real low inventory for 15, 16, 17, 18, going into 19. Some of the markets slowed down a little bit in 18 and 19, but you still have Michigan market, like where I roll, in both the markets I roll, they've both been below a 3-month supply of homes in the sub $300,000 market for the last 3-4 years, 5 years, which is almost completely unheard of. Now, some people would say, well, Russ, the market's been so good and the inventory's been so low, it had to change at some point. That has nothing to do with what's going on right now. The only reason this market is going to shift right now from what it was is because some things are starting to balance back out, of course, but the ones that weren't starting to balance back out, for example, Detroit and Tampa, those two markets are going to slow down simply because people are scared. Big difference between having fundamental economic disaster going on, which was what was going on in 05, 06, 07, financial institutions failing left and right, auto industry continuing to fail, bailouts going on. The economy was completely tanked. When we were going into that, economy was strong, and then the economy tanked, which drove the real estate market into the crapper. In this one, you've got coronavirus popping here, and it's slowing things down. It's going to take people out of the market. So here's a couple of the issues that are going to go on. It's going to take some people out of the market for a little while. It's going to get some people set up where they don't have the income that they had before. Potentially some of them will lose their jobs and their jobs will stay away for a while. It's going to take a little bit of time to get them back on their feet. Some people are going to be missing paychecks, which will make it a little bit more of a challenge to be able to get mortgages. So that'll slow things down for more than just 2 or 3 months. So what I would be saying for you guys is, from a real estate perspective, I would expect this to be making an effect on us for probably 4, 5, 6, 7 months, maybe even a year, because some people that don't get a couple of paychecks, it's going to take them a little while to build up that history, so a mortgage company will back them. Now, there's about 8 million different things that can happen that change that. For example, the mortgage industry may say, hey, if you were out of work for a short period of time because of coronavirus-related stuff, we're going to forgive that. That would be wonderful, which would fire the real estate market back up. You've also got, in a lot of markets, pent-up demand that happened from 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, when people weren't buying houses on a regular basis like normal. You've got all of that pent-up demand, and that's what's driven this drive upward. And what you will find in some of these markets that are still flying is that, like, for example, perfect example, 2 weeks ago, I listed a house in Tampa, $200,000 even, 3-bed, 2-bath, 1-car garage, had a nice little pond view behind it, and it has a nice little lakey pond type thing behind it. The property had five showings day one. We had 5 offers, 4 cash offers, and 1 first-time home buyer. We told the first-time home buyer exactly what their offer needed to look like, because I want the first-time home buyer to get a house, because they've been looking for 3 months and not able to get in a house. So we went over asking price. The next day it was under contract. That happened 2 weeks ago. That hopefully will close in another week and a half, 2 weeks, right? Barring them losing their job and so forth and so on. That should close. But that kind of stuff is still going on because there's still pent-up demand. I know you may say, well, Russ, what does pent-up demand really look like? And will that happen again? Well, let's run some math, because I like to use factual numbers to make sure I back up my BS with numbers that make sense, right? I'm not just going to spout crap. I'm going to spout crap and I'm going to back it up with numbers. And you go, he's full of it. Let me show you the numbers behind it. So here's where I come up with this number, right? How many houses are bought and sold every year? Do you guys know? It's right around 5 million, a little north of 5 million home sales every year. Now, keep in mind, for us real estate people, this is great, because for every house sold, you got a buyer typically and a seller. I mean, aside from new construction, you've got 2 sales on that. So there's somewhere in the range of about 10,000 transactions, 9 to 10,000 transactions with 5,000 homes selling. So let's just do simple math, right? If you take 5 million homes that sell every year, divide that by 12, let's say flattened out and equalized, if you did it equal every single month, which we know is not right, but let's just keep it for simplicity's sake, that's 416,000 home sales every single month. So what happens if half of those people or 3/4 of those people or 80% of those people can't get a house? What you end up with is a scenario where you've got, let's say on a normal month, you've got 416,000 closings. Let's say you get half of that. Let's say conservatively, you get half of those don't close now because of the Corona issue. What'll happen over the next 3, 4, 5 months is that you're going to say 3, 4, 5 months. This is going to be, you're going to have what, two times, let's say 4. You've got 800,000. You've got 800,000 people that normally would have bought that aren't going to buy. So what ends up happening in a market like this when it slows down, it's not like a restaurant where like my wife and I aren't going out to dinner tonight. And then 3 months from now, we're going to say, you know what? Because we didn't get dinner on March 20th, that Friday night. Remember that Friday night we were going to go out to dinner at a restaurant? Because we didn't do that, let's have dinner twice. It doesn't work like that, right? So with the house-related stuff, people aren't going to say, hey, man, the economy moved a little bit and changed. All right, somebody just jumped in on Galaxy. I'm going to mute you here. All right, just took you on mute there. Cool. Let me change my view. Okay, good. All right, so they're not going to say, hey, I'm just never going to buy a house again. Obviously, some people aren't going to be able to buy a house, but it's not like they're going to give up for the rest of their life. They're just going to delay that. They're going to delay big purchases until they get back on their feet. Can that delay happen for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months, maybe even a year? Absolutely. But the longer that delay is, the bigger this number goes. Let's say it goes 6 and 7 months people delay. That puts you at 12. That puts you at 1.2 million. 1.2 million people that are sitting in the background saying, hey, I'm not buying a house right now, but I will eventually. So what'll happen is this is going to go flat for a little while, and the real estate market's going to take this dip right now, like this. And then what'll happen is when we get past the Corona and people are feeling safe again, these people are going to come back into the market on top of the normal 416,000 is going to happen. So instead of 416,000 people buying, you could potentially have 600K looking to buy per month, and it would take 4 or 5 months to get that back to even again. So when you look at supply and demand, and you look at the demand curves, and you look at the way this happened over a span, the older version happened over a span of 5, 6 years, right? So you got 5, 6 years of pent up demand, and those people don't just say, hey, I'm never going to buy a house ever in my life. They just delay it. And that's why we've had such an unbelievable market for 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, going into 19, coming into 20 right now in a lot of markets. It's still ripping and roaring. And the only thing slowing it down is the fact that people are scared and they're being told you're not allowed to go. Sandy's not allowed to go out of her house in California right now unless it's an emergency. She gets pulled over, it's a misdemeanor, right? That's what they're doing right now to kind of lock it down and flatten this curve out. Not going to talk politics, not going to talk about who's doing what, where, when, and how. All I know is I'm saying, guys, we're in the real estate business. Guess what politic party we are? We're the human party. We are freaking in this together. Every single one of you, I don't care who you vote for, who you're going to vote for, who you wish you could have voted for right now, we're all in the same party. We're in the human party, and we got to bond together and figure out a way to make this happen. And the cool part is we are connectors as real estate agents. Think about every single one of your sphere of influences. Every one of you has how many people you touch? 200 people, 300, 400, 500 people in your spheres of influence. My sphere of influence is gigantic. I love that I can see people from all over the country on here. This is amazing, the reach that we have. So it starts with us to start saying, it's gonna be okay. It might not be okay today, but it's gonna be okay. And when humans get pushed against the wall, most of us will put ourselves together. And when you put humans face to face, as long as we're 6 feet apart right now, there's not much I wouldn't do for any one of you guys. And I know every single one of you personally feels the same way. So with that being said, there's a lot of good in this world. There's a lot of good in this universe. And this is some of the moments where you're going to see some really great stuff happen. And you're going to see some human beings do some really great stuff. And there's some idiots out there that are going to do some real asshole stuff. But that's not what we're going to be focused on. They are what they are. When push comes to shove, I know Jody would do anything for me. Wouldn't you, Jody? I know Dorothy would do anything for me. I know Marianne would do anything for me. I know Sandy would, I know all you guys, right? And I feel exactly the same way. That's part of the reason why I'm doing this, is to say, guys, hey, we're in this together. You get stuck on something, you reach out to me. I'll be happy to help you any way I can. So with that being said, let's talk about the mindset. So now you got a little bit of a history lesson. 2005, 6, 7, 8, completely different than this. Is there a reason this will go 3, 4, 5, 6 years? No. Is it probably likely to have an effect and lower the numbers for the next 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months to maybe even a year? Absolutely. But as soon as this big scare thing starts going back, and as soon as we get past the blocking people down, people are going to start coming out of the woodwork. Guess what? They're going to be surfing the internet, looking at houses because they got nothing else to do. Guess who they're going to call when the time comes and they're allowed to go back out of their house? They're going to call the person that's delivered the most value. So we're going to talk about a couple of real specific things you should be doing right now to help build your credibility. So when they get out of lockdown, they call you and say, I'm ready to buy a house. Let's go get a deal. Interest rates are still low. You're my guy, right? That's what we'll talk about next. So first things first, let's talk about your brain and where your brain is. It's one of my favorite things to do, right? My brain has been a screwed up mess for the last year and a half. I've been working on it a ton, trying to rebuild my own brain and rebuild my own mindset. So guys, when I'm talking right now, I'm talking to me, right? I'm talking to me. I hope my wife can overhear me in the other room, right? Talking to myself right now, because this is where my brain is going right now. And I know some of you guys might be feeling the same way. So I'm going to let you have a glimpse into what my head is doing. Okay. This is a conversation I've had with my wife a couple times the last couple days. My wife has a muscle disease. She can't get out like normal people. She also has really low white blood cell count, which means she's basically catches anything. A kid sneezes across the street, she'll catch it. So she's more susceptible than most people. So she's more nervous than most people, and rightfully so. So we're being extraordinarily cautious compared to most people because she's at risk. I don't want her to die over a stupid virus, okay? Dumb reason to lose somebody. So we're going a little bit more than the extra mile. Social distancing for me is hanging out in my garage. It's great. I social distance myself with wood and knives and all kinds of other stuff, okay? So let's get into what the mindset needs to be. And this is something you guys can spread around. Number one, good stuff saying, hey, these people sitting off the market are going to come back in. And when they come back in, they're going to drive that number back down. By the way, one other point, like in Tampa and Michigan, if you said to me right now, by the way, the inventory is going to double in the next 2-3 months, my response would be, hell yeah, good, because we don't have enough inventory right now. If the inventory in Tampa doubled, it would still be south of a 6-month supply of homes. If the inventory in Detroit doubled in the sub 300,000 range, it would still be less than a 6-month supply of homes in most neighborhoods. So this is actually a good thing. So when buyers come back out, they're going to have some choices for a little while. And then you're going to have a buying frenzy and then buy the houses again, and you're going to go back to competing. Okay. So that's a little sidebar there. So there are silver linings in this cloud. And we're looking for some of them. Okay. So the mindset right now is, if you're focused on the things that you can't control, you're going to be stressed out. You're going to be frustrated. You're going to be aggravated. You're going to be angry. You're going to lose sleep. You're going to be mad. You're going to be sad. You're going to get depressed. If you're focusing too much on the past and the way it used to be, and I wish it could be the way it used to be, it normally creates depression in most humans if you're focused too much on the past. If you're focused too much on the future, it tends to create stress. It tends to create fear. So if you're feeling stress and fear, you're focusing too much on the future. If you're feeling sad and depressed, chances are you're focusing too much on the past. That's why people remembering their parents feel sad if they've passed. That's why people remembering the way it used to be in the good old days. Remember when the kids were little and all that stuff. If you focus so much on that, wishing that would come back, it usually depresses you. People looking to the future, what's going to happen? How's it going to happen? Why is it going to happen? When's it going to happen? Who's it going to happen to? Who's it going to happen to first? Who's the first one that's going to die from this that I know? I mean, those things people are going through their head and they're talking that out loud. And the more you say that and the more you reinforce that, the more fear you're going to feel. Fear, they say, is one of the oldest human emotions, and it is one of the most powerful human emotions. That's why terrorists use fear to scare people into changing the way they live their life. When you think twice about stepping out of your door because you're scared something's going to happen, that's when the terrorists win, right? So let's look at this as an entity. COVID is just basically no different than a terrorist, right? If we give into the fear and you change your behavior because you're scared, sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes that's a good thing. So not all fear is bad. If people had no fear, they wouldn't change their behavior at all with this thing. So a little bit of fear here is good, but if it's making it so you can't sleep at night and you're worried about what's going to happen, where you're going to go, how you're going to go, what you can do, you're going to be frazzled and beat up, right? So what is non-controllable? Nobody can control COVID right now. Okay, you can call it whatever you want. You can call it the Chinese virus. You can call it COVID. You can call it the whatever. You can call it nonsense if you want. Nobody can control what that thing is going to do. Can we affect it? Sure. But are we going to control what it's going to do? This thing's already, I mean, this dog's already off the leash running around. We just don't know where it's going to go yet. Okay. Can we control that? No. So is that what I'm focused on? No. Do we know it's there? Yes. Am I going to modify my behavior because I know there's potential for issues? Absolutely. Can I control that? No. Can I control what other people do? This is one that I keep seeing on Facebook all the time. Well, you're not going to believe this guy, and this guy should do this, and this guy should say that, and the president should do this, and the people should do that, and the health department and the CDC and everybody, and they're bitching, moaning, and pissing about what everybody else should do, could do, would do, should have done. And the problem is when you're so focused on what other people should be doing and pissed off about what other people should be doing, you're not controlling the one thing you got, right? You got to control what you're doing. Right? So what is one of the things that we can control? We can control our reaction, right? So when I see an other do something stupid, and by the way, I've seen a couple of these stupid things recently myself. You see it, you go out in public, you're gonna see stupid. Can I control my reaction to that? It's like, hey, to each their own. What you don't realize when you look at me, looking like middle-aged, reasonably healthy young man, you don't realize is that I bring this home to my wife it could kill her, right? So you may see me and say, well, that guy's overreacting. He's not at risk. Well, my reaction is in control of the fact you don't know what the rest of my story is. So when you see somebody doing something what you consider crazy, what I want you to think in your head mindset wise is, I don't know the rest of their story. And if I knew the rest of their story, what they're doing might make more sense to me. They say, you walk a mile in their shoes. Like, I would never look as good as Jody walking a mile in her shoes. I'd be stumbling around. But I do ride a bike, so my calves would look sexy, right? But yeah, I mean, you say put their shoes on and walk a mile in their shoes. I used to do a charity event. Marianne Carroll will remember this. Used to do a charity event to raise money for breast cancer, and they'd make it was all guys, and the guys would raise money, and we'd wear women's shoes and walk a mile in their shoes. And then I told my team, if you donate money to this and we raise X amount of dollars, I'll let you dress me however you want. You can pick my outfit. And they made me look like a jacked up version of RuPaul and Minnie Pearl. It was horrible. I was one horribly ugly dude, but I had great looking calves and a pair of pumps. So with that being said, can we control what others do? No. We don't know what they've gone through. We don't know what their situation is. We don't know what their stress level is. We don't know what else they're doing with it. You'll see that guy with 20 boxes of Purell in his cart and you'll be like, what a jerk. Why would he do that? What you might not realize is he's buying for the homeless shelter to make sure he can protect everybody at the homeless shelter. He's not hoarding it for himself. There's a possibility he's doing it because he's got 80 people that come in every night that need food and need care and need to sleep there because they don't have a house of their own. So when you see somebody with 400 rolls of toilet paper, they might be buying for a homeless shelter. It's possible, right? So give everybody a little bit of slack, control your reaction. So if you're trying to control other people, you're going to be frustrated, you're going to be aggravated, you're going to be stressed out. If you're trying to control things you can't control, you're going to be frazzled, you're going to be stressed out. So what are the things we can control? I can control my reaction. I can control my actions, okay? What I do and don't do, I can control that. And what I do and don't do, what I do is just as important as what I don't do. So I'm going to do the things I need to protect my family. I'm also going to not go out and expose myself. And I'm also not going to go out and try to get other people. And I'm going to try whatever I can do to follow the rules the best I can until I can't. So you can control your actions. If you're frazzled and stressed out, instead of resorting to drinking, like I keep seeing posts like, I'm going to run out of booze before we get rid of it. You know, like people are seeing this. Here's my drink next to my desk, right? And you're like, oh, Russ is drinking iced tea. No, this is bourbon. I'm kidding. Totally kidding. It's iced tea. So instead of going to things that may harm us more long-term and compromise our immune system long-term, think about this. Going for a walk. Learn to meditate. You guys have all heard this a million freaking times, right? Meditation is good for you. How many of you actually do it? Sit down and meditate. I'm not talking get all kinds of weird spiritual and burn incense and start chanting and get crazy with it. I'm just simply saying, just relax and breathe. Try to think about nothing for a little bit. If your mind wanders, go back to trying to think about nothing a little bit. What you'll find is if you do that, deep breathe for 20 minutes. If you can't go for a walk, deep breathe for 20 minutes and try to think about nothing. Your body relaxes, your blood pressure goes down. You don't feel fear as much. Those things that are bothering you don't bother you nearly as much. If your brain keeps going back to something you don't want, replace it with something you do want. Here's the greatest part about the law of attraction. When you say, this is what I want in my life, the universe or whatever you call it is going to put a bunch of things in front of you and you're going, that's not what I want. You're like, but what do you want? So it helps you clarify what you do want. So it's really important to choose your thoughts. You can control your thoughts, not all the time, but when you have a thought that pops up and you don't like it, get a rubber band, put it on your wrist, give it a snap, and replace it with a good thought. After you've done that 40 or 50 times in a day and your wrist feels like your hand's going to fall off, you're going to start going, every time a bad thought starts popping in your head, you're going to be like, you're going to look at your wrist and be like, man, I'm not doing that thought again. It's like, here's what I want. I want to come out of the other side of this. So here's my mindset, right? I am doing things today that's going to get me out of this and bring me make me a stronger real estate person, a stronger leader, put me in a position where my business will be twice what it was when I started this. So this is an acceleration phase for me because I'm making connections and I'm building credibility and I'm building myself as a business person. I'm building myself as a leader right now. You'll see this guy, Anthony Fauci, on TV a bunch. Nobody knew who that guy was. Now I know him by name. That guy is going to see a completely different reaction to him for the rest of his life. He's going to see a completely different reaction to him because he's stepped up and he's leading in this situation, right? So this is a time where people can become leaders and you can start to spread this thinking process. So instead of posting, look at this idiot, say, hey, can you guys imagine? I've typed this in more than once. It's possible that guy runs a homeless shelter and he needs it for 80 homeless people. Because I know if my mom was at that Costco, that's what she'd be doing. She's not a bad person. She's supplying the homeless shelter she runs. So those are the types of things I'm throwing out there to help comment instead of piling on and saying, yeah, look at that guy, he's an idiot. Okay, so can I control my reactions? What I'm finding is when I'm focused on the things I can control, I'm feeling more relaxed. So if you're feeling freaked out, you're focused on the wrong stuff. Focus on the controllable. Now, with that being said, wow, let's shift gears. 41 minutes in, let's shift gears. What can I do to accelerate my way out of this? I'm going to tell you guys right now, here's your number one. Here's your number one thing. How many people do you know that are financial advisors that know really, really well what's going on in the real estate market? Almost none of them, right? I'm starting my little list. Here's the ones I reached out to tomorrow. I started doing this yesterday. I'm reaching out to anybody that I know that's a financial advisor and saying, hey, by the way, as you're going through this, if somebody says, hey, what's going on in the real estate business? I wonder what's going to go on in the real estate business. This is another component of people's worth and their financial wherewithal. What's going to happen with my real estate? Do you think anybody that's a financial advisor is getting questions about that? Absolutely. And who is their resource for factual information? So being able to do a market update and tell them what's going on in the market and consult them on what's going on in the market is an absolutely fantastic way to make a connection with them and make connections with financial advisors you don't know. So I've got 3, 4, 5 people that I have on my list that I don't know that I'm going to reach out to. And I'm going to say, hey, I know you don't know me, but I'm a local real estate guy. I put together this really short video on what's going on in the real estate market as of today. Now, here's the wild part. It's going to change next week and the next week and the next week. So every 2 or 3 weeks, I'm going to do an updated market update to tell you what's going on in the market so you're up to speed on that. And it can help you guide your customers and clients better. By the way, here's something also. So like for Sarah, I have agreed with her to do a personalized market update for her. So I'm going to start my market update. Like, hi, my name is Russ Lagan, real estate expert in Tampa, Florida. And Sarah Contino asked me if I could give you guys a quick real estate market update on what's going on in the market, because she's in the financial side. And I know a lot of you guys have stuff in real estate and a lot of you guys live in houses. So here's what's going on in the real estate market today. Now, keep in mind, this is today. As this goes on, keep your eyeballs open for Russ, the real estate dude. I'm going to be telling you what's going on in 3 weeks and 6 weeks and 9 weeks and 12 weeks and 15 weeks. And we're going to keep our eyeball on this, and I'll keep you up to speed what's going on in the real estate business so you know what the facts are. I hope you enjoy this. And then give them the information, right? So I'm going to personalize it for Sarah, and then Sarah can send it to everybody in her sphere of influence. Now what have I done? I've taken my sphere of influence of 300, 400, and I just added her sphere of influence, business sphere of influence, of 200 or 300. Now I become their real estate expert. Do you think that's a way to build your business? Do you think that's a way to make connections? Do you think that's a really great way to bootleg somebody else's sphere? Absolutely, right? Not that you're going to use them for that, but it's information that they need. You become a resource. You're the one delivering value. You become their go-to person. Now, do you think Sarah's going to say to me, hey, Russ, because I am building my own real estate teams, I am growing my business. Not everybody on this call is with eXp Realty. If you're not and you want to talk about that, let me know. I'll talk to you about how you can build that and build some residual income and so forth. This is not a sales pitch. I'm just simply saying, if you're stuck and you want to talk about it, let me know. I'll reach out to you. But as you're doing that, are there other real estate agents that need to know this info? And it would be a great resource for you. Now, Sarah's saying, Russ, I know a bunch of real estate agents, but nobody's doing this. I said, well, make sure you send it to them too. Now I become their expert, helping guide them and help them through this process too. So you've got twofold, threefold way you can use just that one thing to connect and add more people to your sphere, connect to their spheres, and connect to the real estate people that they know too. Because guys, whoever is the one helping people understand this information is the one that people are going to look to when things get tough. And if they're looking to you when things get tough, when things are good, they're going to look to you too. Okay? So this is a really powerful tool. There's my number one strategy right there for growing your business and coming out the other side. You do that for the next 3, 4, 5 months, you could potentially have another 1,000 people that you have contact and influence with in your sphere of influence, just with working with 3 or 4 financial advisors. Say, make a list of 6 or 7 financial advisors you can offer to give them a real estate market update, keep them up to speed on what's going on so they know, and they can be efficient at telling their customers what's going on in the real estate world with factual information. You could literally explode your sphere of influence by 1,000, 1,200, 1,400 people, which could translate into 50, 60, 70 sales in the next year just by doing that one thing alone, okay? So you want to talk about an opportunity that you would never have gotten without something like this going on. There's a giant silver lining in this cloud, right? Okay. The second thing is your sphere of influence. Guys, listen, this is a great time to connect to your sphere of influence. You can't see them face to face. You can't shake your hands. You can't kiss them. You can't spit on them from here, right? Because you got to be over 6 feet away. Unless you're a camel, you can't spit that well. So the good news is this is an opportunity for you to start building your sphere. And how's a great way to build your sphere? Guys, you're all in my sphere. How am I doing this? Video. Now you might go, oh God, here's Russ again. Here he goes again. Every time I talk to Russ, he talks about sphere of influence. Yes, and you know why? Because your sphere of influence is your number one resource for the most closings and the highest percentage of hit rate. So first things first, in my training system that I teach, the first step is build your sphere, name, address, phone number, email address of everybody you know. Guys, guess what? You're gonna have 2, 3, 4 weeks, maybe 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks of doing what? If you can't get your sphere list together in that time, you know what? You might want to consider being in a different business because you're going to be doing it the hard way for a long time. So you're going to get your sphere list together. For those of you growing teams and building teams of people, for those of you that are brokers and saying, I'm going to grow my business, for those of you like me who's got teams in multiple different places and growing the people around me, I've got a separate list, which is my R list, which is my realtors. And I send this stuff to them too. You guys are all in my R list. I call my R list is my 6-figure sphere of influence group. All of you guys probably saw this from my 6-figure sphere group. That's my real estate, all real estate people sphere that I've touched or contacted or communicated with, or they directly know somebody I'm with. 609 people as of this morning that are in there. I've built that over the last 14 months. And these are all people that I have some type of connection with, not random strangers that just decided to sign up. You're either in there because I've met you face to face, I've talked to you, touched you, or you've talked to or touched somebody that I know directly that's brought you in along with them. So sphere of influence, a great time to reorganize that and get that set up. So here's a couple of additional things you guys can be looking at. When I'm talking about video, you've got nothing better to do than fiddle fart around with video and figure out how to make it work. I'm going to say right out of the gate, start off with really simple recipe. Start off with, hi, my name is Russ Lagan, the real estate dude. I do that because I do it unbranded because I don't want my brand to scare people away that aren't in my brand. And then I go into 1 or 2 simple points, keep it short, minute, 2 minute, 3 minute. And then I end with, I'm Russ the real estate dude. I'll see you on the next video. And you see me do this every time. Or this. And that's when I know I can clip the end of the video. So I keep it really simple and I follow the same recipe. Do it, practice it, start throwing some videos out on there on simple things, right? Good tip of the day, whatever you want to do, right? Here's some really great things you can do videos on. I made a small list for you guys. This is way too small for you to read, so I'll read them off to you. Your area. Is there the ability to take a bike ride right now or take a walk and go shoot some video of areas when there's no people around? Did you guys see the pictures of Times Square the other day? When was the last time you could go into Times Square, turn around, shoot a picture, and there's not a bunch of bums and hobos in the picture? Never have I seen Times Square where you can see all the sidewalks and all the walkways. It's insane, right? So some of these places that you normally go to that are chock full of people, you can shoot pictures with no people in them, which is pretty cool. Okay, your local neighborhood features. Start building a repertoire of those. Some of those, I mean, if you need to get out of the house, go for a walk and hit up your local neighborhoods and get some stock photos. So when you do a listing, you've got stock photos. It saves you time for later on. You got nothing else to do, so you might as well build up a stockpile of photos of individual neighborhoods and different features in the neighborhoods and communities. Take a bike ride, get into some of the local community stuff, and get some pictures of that stuff too. Right? You've got your city, you've got your parks, you've got your common stuff in your community, cool places, cool stores, new restaurants. Promote a local business that's getting their ass kicked right now. You want to talk about building friends? Start to call the owner of the company, be like, hey, I'm just going to promote your business today because I know you're having a tough time. So I'm going to promote you on Facebook. I was there at your store, your restaurant. I loved it last time I was there. So when you guys get back up and running, I'm going to keep promoting you guys. That's a really great thing you can do. Do you think you can add people to your sphere of influence by helping promote their businesses? Businesses that are still running, they're still able to do business, but not getting the exposure because people aren't out. It's a great opportunity for you to make connections with some of those people, right? Your friends that have businesses, post on Facebook. Who's a friend of mine that has a business that could use a little bit of promotion? Guys, if you're in this area, reach out to these people. By the way, if you're in this area, they're still doing takeout. By the way, if you're in this area, this cigar bar, you can still go into the cigar bar, buy cigars, but you got to leave. You can't sit in there anymore. You can't buy drinks, but you can go in, get cigars, and go back out. That type of stuff alone could potentially help that place survive because people will just assume it's closed. Okay, so those types of things you can do to help out people in your community. And does that build your credibility? Yeah. Is that controllable? Yeah. Do you feel like you're doing something? Yeah. Do you feel like you're moving your business forward? Yeah. Now what, right? So in a crappy situation, you feel like you're still making progress, doing things you can't get done when you're normally working because you're too busy, right? So let's look at a couple of other things you can do during this downturn to really come out the other side strong. Increase your knowledge base. Read the book by Chris Voss. What is that called? The negotiating book. I'm forgetting the name of it off the top of my head. Negotiating book by Chris Voss. Phenomenal book on negotiating. It's Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Great book on mindset. You want to win more fights with your wife? Read that book. Kidding. You want to win more fights with your husband? Read that book. It'll help you learn how to negotiate against them. Okay? Start building out checklists for your business. If you don't have checklists of every single thing that you're doing, every single thing, working with buyers, working with sellers, start setting yourself up so if your business grows, you're more systematized and you have those parts and pieces done. So that if your business grows and you do this stuff and it comes back out the other side flying, you're able to start handing this stuff over to an admin person, let them do the $15, $20 an hour stuff. You focus on $300 to $500 an hour stuff. So getting your checklist together and getting your business organized, block out 2 hours and just button that stuff up. Full buyers list. Here's everything end to end that I do. Here's everything end to end that I do with a listing. Start dotting I's and crossing T's and upgrading your listing presentation. Update your photos, update your stats. One of the things I put here on the bottom of my list, and I should have put it on top of my list, is start finding articles that you can use to deliver to your sphere of influence, post on Facebook, mail out to people, and you can build out like your next 12 months worth of value items. You can have that all set, ready to rock and roll. And then when the month comes up, boom, you just got it. You pull it, print it, and ship it, right? Simplify things for when the market starts moving. Talk about home values. This is a really great time for you to be able to take home values and literally sit down with people and say, hey, by the way, I just want to tell you, you bought the house 2 years ago with me. This is step 8 in my program. You want to get into doing one-on-one home value. You take your top people in your sphere of influence, say, hey, by the way, I did a little bit of home research. You bought your house 2 years ago, and I wanted to show you what your house is worth today. Now, here's the fun part. It's probably not going to be worth this in 3 weeks, but today it's worth this, and hopefully this smooths back out, and it'll probably come right back up. This little dip that we're going to see in the market right now, real estate, is probably going to come right back up over the next 6, 7, 8 months or a year. It's not going to go down and stay down and rebuild from the bottom. It's probably going to bump right back up. And this is based on watching this market and watching this cycle. Since this cycle is different, while $200,000 property today, it might drop down in the 190s over the next 3, 4, 5 months. But I guarantee you when the market starts moving back up, it's going to pop right back because we still have a shortage of homes. Just in a lot of these markets. The markets have more supply, are going to see a slower return, just heads up, okay? So let's see, last thing on the, read books, get some exercise, eat healthy. I see all these posts on Facebook right now. It's like, here's me when I went into self-isolation, and here's me when I left self-isolation, right? People are like, man, you're not going to believe how much weight I'm going to gain during this thing. Guys, listen, this is a long haul, right? Like now's the time. It's like, what do you have now? Like, go out and do something. go for a walk, go for a bike, do some burpees, find some way to stay engaged, get a group together, find some way to actually come out of this thing skinnier than when you went in. I'm going to tell you right now, if you go into this thing skinny and come out of it fat, you've lost control. You're not controlling things that are controllable. You control what you put in your pie hole. The good news is for most of you, you're not going to be able to go to restaurants as much as you used to, which means you're going to probably have better choices and eat healthier. And if you move a little bit, you can use this as an opportunity to come out of the other side and you'll be like, I got out of this thing. I'm COVID sexy now, baby. I got 3 months, nothing else to do. I got my groove on. Now I'm coming out of this thing. I went in at this weight, I came out at this weight, and now I feel good and I look good. And I've set my business up for success. That's what we're talking about being able to do over the next couple of months. Continuing education, get that stuff locked down. I mean, you got nothing else to do right now. Bop out that continuing education. If you'd like to know how to do it super fast in Florida and bootleg cheat the thing, I've got a cheater code for that. Happy to share it with you if you want. Reach out to me. And then the last thing on the list is, if you really, really don't have anything else to do and you've done all this other stuff, pop a designation, get a little bit of different perspective. The GRI and the CRS designations are pretty good designations, I understand. I don't have either one of them because it's never been, I've always gotten my education a million different other directions. But for some of you guys, if you need a more systematized, organized way to do this, not a bad idea. Of course, you can always read a bunch of books on real estate. There's a couple of really great books out there on real estate. Millionaire Real Estate Agent, Gary Keller's book is a great book. Ninja Selling is a great book. It has a lot of similarities to the way I teach to build sphere of influence. And there's a bunch of other books out there that you can tag and you can pull them online too, by the way. So you don't have to go to a bookstore. So that's pretty much all I've got for you guys now. I want to give you one last thing here. If you're saying, hey, Russ, I really need somebody at this point to help me guide my business. You need a coach to help you really accelerate through this. You can reach out to me on calendly.com/Russ-33. It's not a sales pitch. I just know for some of you guys, you might be like, I've been talking about doing this. I've been wanting to do this, and I really don't have the money right now to do it. And I'm really scared I'm not going to have the money to do it, but I really need to get my business set up for success. So when this starts coming back, I can accelerate out of this. I can help work with you guys on that. And of course, if you want to talk about how to take your business to the next level, and you want to talk about how to work virtual, I've been working virtual for 5 years. I work with a virtual company. If you're not with a virtual company, it's going to be a dogfight for the next 3, 4, 5 months. I don't have to worry about getting paid. I don't have to worry about transactions. Our company is socially isolated, socially distanced from day one. And I'll tell you what, in times like this, man, I can't tell you how proud I am of the decision I made for what I do. And it gives me the ability to work out of multiple states. I've got 2 properties under contract in Michigan, 1 under contract in Florida, and I'm listing a house here in Florida on Monday. So guys, you could do business anywhere if you set yourself up the right way. And I banged my head and stubbed my toe on most of those things. And I found some of the systems I found learning the hard way, smashing my stuff on stuff. I've come up with some pretty cool stuff. So if you want to talk about that, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Again, calendly.com/Russ-33. You can hit me up on Facebook. And if you guys get stuck on something, you're having one of those days, you just need somebody to wind your ass up, reach out to me. I'll pick up the phone. We'll talk through it for a couple of minutes, pick it apart, and find out what you need to focus on. If there's nothing I do great in this world, one of the things I do great in this world, I think I do great in this world, is helping inspire other people to take their business to the next level, take control of their destiny, and just knock it the hell out of the park and live a great life. Do some cool stuff. You're going to see some cool stuff coming out of my garage over the next couple of weeks because I got nothing to do in the evenings but build crap, right? Hey, check this out. This is my cigar box ukulele I just built. That's the kind of crap I do to keep my brain distracted, right? Yeah, see the bass guitar I built sitting over there, right? So I'll be building stuff, keeping my brain unplugged, reading books, learning stuff, and here to support you guys. Reach out to me if you need me and go from there. That's all I got for today. Any questions? Open up your microphone. I'll stick on here. Let's see, it's 59, right at the 1 hour mark. Bam, love that. I'll stay on for a couple minutes and answer any questions you guys got. Thank you for your time, energy, and effort.